break, so I came out here to give you all the latest updates. I'm gonna give everybody a minute or two to get in here. Lord, all this noise. If they have another siren coming up and down here while I'm trying to do my live.
What ended up happening with the judge?
When they had that little meeting back there?
Yeah, well,
that meeting lasted like 45 minutes.
I know that. Like,
we don't know.
The judge just come out and was like,
he didn't tell us nothing. He didn't tell us what was going on.
He just carried
So
on like it was normal.
Right. And then Agnifilo tried to.
Everybody wants to know what your handle is. Can I found that?
Oh, sure. My handle
Okay.
is James R. Sanders, R as in radical.
So listen, hey everybody. Okay, so we're out here on a lunch break.
Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube.
Hold on, you guys. It's a little noisy because you can hear the sirens. Okay, I'll get started in just a second.
And social justice. And social justice.
That's what I'm talking about, social
I
justice.
wouldn't necessarily call myself a influencer, even though I have done some brand collaborations.
Hold on, guys.
But
Hold on
that's
just
me
a
in
second. We're going to get into it.
I report on race, politics, and of course, fashion.
Yes, we're going inside, guys. Everybody said hi. I wanted to give you a shout out. I tried to give everybody a shout out.
So
and I keep seeing you, but I never get to really say.
Thank you for shouting me out earlier, beloved. I appreciate you.
Really?
Okay, so listen.
Something is dumping. Not you. I'm talking about.
None, are you still mad at me?
I'm trying to figure out.
He don't even like hugs. That's why I was like, what's going on?
No, but I'm trying to figure out if for what.
So anyway, I'm sorry, you guys. We're just a little distracted. Now, listen.
Why was I mad?
So after we came back from the break, remember I told you guys the judge called not a sidebar, but he took the lead defense and the lead prosecutors and the witnesses, Jane Doe's counsel, all into the chambers and had a discussion with them. Now I sat out here and did like a 15-minute video. By the time I went back inside, they were still having this meeting. So it must have been really serious. I mean, they were in there for almost an hour, like 45 or 50 minutes by the time they came out. And they didn't, interestingly enough, they didn't bother to tell us what they had discussed. But I do know that once they came out, Mark Agnifilo asked the judge if the next time, basically, Diddy could be privy to the conversation. He wanted his client to know exactly what was going on. And so the judge said, well, I can clear the court. He's like, I can clear the court if you want me to. And he's like, Your Honor, we don't need to clear the court. So anyway, later on, right before we came to break right now, right before we came to break.
If you lie, you'll steal, and if you'll steal, you'll kill.
All right, James. So listen.
If you lie, you'll steal, and if you'll steal, you'll kill.
I'm sorry, I'm listening to James in the background. Okay, so anyway, right before we got ready to come to break for lunch, they were going to have another meeting. And this time, Mark Agnifilo asked again, could his defendant come into the chambers? And the judge just seemed like he got really annoyed by that. He seemed like he really got an attitude about it when Mark Agnifilo asked if Diddy could come back there. So he's like, well, you know what? We can have it right here. So he comes and sits back on the bench and starts getting ready to have the meeting. And then he's like, wait a minute, let's go have a sidebar first. So they went and had another sidebar. I was trying to be nosy. James, get on here, beloved, and say hey to my. Get on here and say hey to my people,
I
please.
always do. Hey, everybody got on my nerves today, and rather than catch a case, I want to stick to reporting it. But make sure y'all follow me on all social media platforms, James R. Sanders. They also call me King James. Like, take me to the king. I don't have much to bring.
Okay, now I don't have much to bring. I'll see you tomorrow, beloved. Okay, that's James from Essence. You all follow him on social media. Okay, now with that all being said, I mean, it's just really getting crazy because, like I said, hey Donat, hey beloved. So the judge was acting like he was really upset or annoyed, you know, and then he's like, well, let's have a sidebar first. So he goes to have the sidebar, and I'm sitting there waiting before I came out here because I'm trying to be nosy. I'm trying to find out what's going on. What's this sidebar about? What's he going to say in this meeting? And why is he acting like he doesn't want Diddy to hear what the hell's going on? Maybe he don't want Diddy coming in his chambers. I don't know. But you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of when Brian Steele was working on the YSL case. And remember how they had that ex parte meeting That's why Brian still got held in contempt and thrown in jail for a few hours, because they had a meeting and they did not invite the defendant nor his counsel into that meeting. But Brian still found out about it, okay? And then they wanted to know, how did he know? So that's kind of what it reminded me of, like the judge is coming off as biased. Now, this isn't the first time, in my opinion, me and some other people have been chattering amongst ourselves how the judge seems to be clearly biased, okay? And I don't like it. I don't like it, because at the end of the day, whether Diddy's guilty or not, the judge is not supposed to be biased and not supposed to be showing favoritism. And I've already told you all before how when the prosecution raises an objection, it's sustained. Then when the defense raises an equally legit objection, in my opinion, it's overruled. So I don't like stuff like that, because you know what I'm saying? Justice is supposed to be issued equally. I'm not saying that it isn't or it won't be. I'm just saying that the judge is coming off as biased. Okay, and it was blatantly obvious on today when he got a whole attitude on his face when Mark Agnifilo wanted Diddy to be privy to the conversation that was being had about a case that he is on trial for. Okay? So that's all I'm saying. That's my 2 cents. But now, with this all being said, Jane Doe's testimony is almost done. There's going to be another witness coming in. She's supposed to be getting a flight up out of here once she's done or whatever. I guess they're going to have the redirect when we come back. And whether, you know, some people believe her testimony is credible. Some people don't. I believe that most of it is. That's just my opinion. Hold on. Judges are friends with big name entertainers. Well, I mean, yeah, I guess they are. But this judge doesn't seem to be in favor of the entertainer. He seems to be in favor of the prosecution. And I'm just saying, no matter who they're privy to be, to know or whatever, they should not be biased for any side, for either side. Okay, that's just how I see it. But like I said, this is my opinion. So anyway, let's talk about what's going on here. So we came back from break after almost an hour of them having that meeting. No telling what they were talking about, as I said. And then Agnifilo raised an objection, okay, and that's because he wanted Diddy to know what happened in chambers, as I told you. So, and that's when the judge threatened to clear the courtroom. So anyway, then Jane Doe gets back on the stand. Now, immediately, Teeny starts going back into her text messages, specifically the text message from October the 26th of 2023. She said, do you recall these text messages? Okay, and she starts reading some of them, and Jane Doe says, well, I'm processing. She had texted Diddy saying that I'm processing trauma. She said, I'm processing trauma. And she basically said that she needed to cuddle up with him. Now, this is after Diddy. She claims that Diddy had done all these things to her. This is after they supposedly had the fight or whatever. But she was texting Diddy, telling him that she needed to see him and all this and that. And then basically they were talking about those hotel nights again. And she admitted that she had bought them that TV. Now remember, I told you all in the audio where Diddy was clearly, it was so obvious. Let me see if I can get out of the sun. It was so obvious that Diddy was doing damage control when he's sitting there sneaking and recording her and then saying, yeah, you know, you brought me this TV so I could record us and we could watch it together. And so she admitted to that because Teeny brought that up again. And she said she got upset. Now, Teeny's asking her, didn't you get upset because he took another woman on a trip? And this is after Cassie's lawsuit was already out. She said you stood your ground about not seeing him because she didn't see him for a minute. She was like, it's over, I'm done, or whatever. Okay, she says then he asked you for support. And then you and him started back communicating through text and phone conversations. So on December the 20th of 2023, there was a text message. You said that you claimed that you still were in love with him, and the relationship at that point has started to deteriorate. Okay, and this is because of the other women. Now, Diddy apologized to Jane Doe, and he said that he didn't know that she felt that way. He didn't know that she was, having these issues or feeling this way. But of course, we know that's not true because we have all the text messages that they've gone through where she, in fact, was telling him exactly how she felt. So he's just playing dumb at the end of the day because he doesn't want to take accountability. So she said, we just need to leave. He said, this is what Diddy said, we just need to leave each other alone. Okay, he said, This is getting very intense. And I took a lot to make you happy. I did a lot to make you happy. Now, I don't want you to feel like I want something from you. I don't want you to feel like I want something from you or like I'm taking something from you. So he's telling her at this point, listen, you have all these complaints. You feel like I'm using you. You feel like there's all these other women, which you knew that I mess around with all these other women, and you were okay, but now you're complaining about it. Listen, let's not even go through this. Let's just move on. He said, I've done everything that I could to try to make you happy. I've done a lot and I've taken a lot. And so right about now, it's just time for us to just go ahead and, just settle our differences basically and just move on. So then there was some more texts, and I don't want to go through all these texts because that's what the basis, most of her testimony was about, these text messages. And then there was an incident where this guy sent her $9,000, okay? A guy sent her $9,000, and Diddy supposedly wasn't happy about it. Why wasn't he happy about it? Well, because Diddy, in my opinion, was controlling her with money, just like he was doing with Cassie. That's why he could bring up the house payment and tell her, what do you need, 3 more months to get out of the house or to pay for the house or whatever? So he was holding money over her head. So if she's got somebody else handed her thousands, I could see why he'd have a problem with that. And then they brought up a rapper. Okay, they brought up this rapper that's close to Mr. Combs. And they said, this rapper is close to Mr. Combs, right? And she said, yes. Okay, so then she said they got together, her and Diddy got together. They had some flirting. They went to dinner or whatever. And then she called Cabral. Now, this was December 25th of 2023, Christmas Day. So she called Cabral. Now, remember, that's her favorite S worker, okay, the one from Atlanta. She called him and told him Merry Christmas. And then she said, hold on, beloveds. And then this is when her and Diddy got back to talking, and Diddy's telling her, or she's telling him that she loved him and she really missed him. She said she loved him and she really missed him. And so she set up something. She basically had, why can't I see this camera? She said basically, can you all see me? Hold on, what the hell's going on here? Let me turn out of the sun, honey. This is old. Okay, can you all see me? Because it looks like, hold on. This sun is shining so bright. I'm not sure how this camera is looking. That's why I'm trying to move it over here to the shade a little bit. I hope it comes out all right. But anyway, so basically, so they got together. She wanted to set up something. So she got with John, and I guess John's one of the assistants. She got with John, and she said they both got together to set things up. Okay, so she said they had candlelight dinner, and they had everything all set up or whatever. And then it was supposed to be romantic, okay? She said she was willing to try to work things out. Now, here's the thing. Whenever Diddy is doing all this nefarious stuff and she's complaining and he's just treating her like crap as far as she's concerned, I'm noticing that she's always the one making the effort to try to repair things, to try to, resolve the issues, trying to do something for him and trying to worry about his feelings. Whereas when she's complaining and explaining her feelings, he's always coming off as cold, as uncaring, as if, okay, well, listen, rather than me listen to your BS, we can just go our separate ways. Like he didn't have time for it. Okay, you all hold on for a second. Okay, it is so hot out here. I think it's like 90-something degrees. Okay, see, I'm sweating my makeup out, honey. Hold on, please pay attention. Okay, so anyway, she had this whole little thing set up, okay? And then in February for Valentine's Day, she wanted to have something done for him. She basically had texted him. And the interesting thing is, now she was always having his assistants like KK. And where is KK, by the way? We've not heard anything from this lady. They have not told us if she's going to testify. We don't know if she was charged. with and then give it immunity. And she flipped on Diddy, which I'm pretty sure she flipped on him. But I'm just saying, we have not heard anything about this woman. But so anyway, whenever she's trying to get back with Diddy or she wants to do something special for him, she would reach out to KK. And I think that she felt maybe, you know, she could confide in her, that KK was going to help her in some manner to try to, you know, keep things going between her and Diddy. But I don't think it really was working, because at the end of the day, KK is Diddy's employee, right? At the time, at least. So KK's not going to take her side. But I think that she somehow felt like, because they're both women, that KK might possibly have her back to a certain degree. So anyway, September of 2024, that's when they decided to reconnect, okay? And then, but here's the thing, Diddy said that he was polyamorous and single. He said he was polyamorous, y'all. Diddy needs to sit down some damn where. First of all, how were all these women, how was he even juggling all these women? How did he have the time, all right, beloved, how did he even have the time to be juggling all these different women? He had Gina, he had, let me see, what's the other? Young Miami, and then he had Jane Doe. And then there's no telling who else that we've never even heard about, okay? But he said he was polyamorous, and he was out there just living his best life while this woman's sitting there crying and all sad. And then, but anyway, she was saying that she, you know, basically she still wanted to be in this relationship with him until she heard all of that. Thanks for the super chat, beloved. I appreciate you. Peace, love, and blessings. Now, with that being said, she was very concerned about Diddy's health. She was concerned about him eating well, concerned about him being overworked, okay? And she tried to do everything she could to be there for him. And so then during the trip, her and Diddy went on a trip, and during this trip, there was no talk about KK, okay? So that means there was no talk about business. It was supposed to be just the two of them, because KK was the chief of staff. So anything that was business related, KK was going to be involved. They were going to have her invited to the conversation. But she said there was no talk about KK, okay? And she showed up now. This is after she saw the Cassie video. So she knew that Diddy was violent. She knew that Diddy was not what she thought, because up until then, she testified again today that she had never seen that side of him, that she never knew that he could get so angry and so mad. But here's what makes me think that she's a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs herself. Because like I told you all, seeing that video of Cassie, and then for her to turn around and put paws on him, and they brought that up again today, Teeny was asking her about it. Now, here's the thing, though. Teeny was painting it as if, you know, of course, she provoked him. She kept calling him a PDF file. She pushed him into the marble counter, and he hit his head. And then Teeny says, you testified, you told the government that when you pushed him, that was like or when she punched him or whatever, she said that was like a middle punch. I think that's the term she used. She said it was a good punch, basically. She said it was a good punch, but like it wasn't too much, okay? That's basically how she described it. All right, I'm paraphrasing, but she said something along those lines. So by this time, now that the video has come out about him beating the hell out of Cassie, she said public sentiment about him had completely changed. Because now a lot of people are looking at him like he's crazy. Because if you remember, before that video came out, he was saying that everybody's lying on him. Everybody's just making up these stories. They're all trying to grab bags. They just want his money and all of that. And maybe some of that was true. But didn't he give them the reason to come after his money? That's all I'm saying. So yeah, so basically, she talked about how they were trying to, you know, I guess they're trying to clean up his image because the video had already gone public. And public sentiment was very, very strong against him right now. So she says, you were focused on his health and him getting better. She said, yeah, it was hard to see. It was very hard to see him like that, and it was even more hard to see the incident that was on tape. So then Tina says, you remained in contact with him even after that video, right? She says, yes. She says, then you came and stayed in Miami for a few days. And then he flew to LA and went on a family trip. Now, here's where it got crazy for me. She said he flew to LA and went on a family trip, and he took his kids and all that, and then said his children posted it on social media. Afterwards, he came to your house. Now, you set up the champagne flutes, okay, and this was before he got to the house. You had set up everything. You had the champagne flutes. flutes. You and John set it all up. And she says, yes. And so she says, there was 12 flutes of champagne. And there were lights. There were shots of tequila. Okay, they had like two shot glasses. And then she says, what time did he arrive? And then I guess he came about 30 minutes later after she finished setting up. And then she showed some photos. Now, she didn't really show the photos to us. I kind of saw the photos because I'm nosy, because the photos were actually shown on the defense's. Thank you for the super chat donation, beloved. I appreciate you. Peace, love, and blessings. Now, the photos were actually shown for the jurors to see and for the witness to see, and they were on the I guess the prosecution could see them, but I couldn't see the prosecution screens. But where I'm sitting, I could see the defense's screens, and so I'm like this, you know, I'm rubbernecking, being nosy, and so I could see the photos a little bit. So it had these photos of Diddy that she had taken, right? She says, June the 18th of 2024, you took the photos. Now, what time did he arrive? And that was about 30 minutes later after she had set up everything. And then you took photos of Mr. Combs, right? She says, yes. Tina says, the photo on the patio, that was taken around 7:35. And you and him, y'all drank champagne, right? And she says, yes. She says, then by 8:30, it was dark outside. So then y'all turned on those red lights. And she says, yes. John brought over the candles. Now I want you all to pay attention. Thank you for the super chat donation, beloved. Peace, love, and blessings. I appreciate you. Now she says that John brought over the candles. Now I want y'all to pay attention because this is giving hotel nights. Because you know, whenever they would have the hotel nights, they would have those red lights. I mean, Diddy must love red lights. And then they would have the candles and all of that, right? And so that's what they had set up for the dinner. So then she says, Jonathan brought the candles. Now here's where they play the audio. Okay? The champagne bottles. They play this audio where Diddy's saying something about, I couldn't understand everything he was saying, but it was something about, I could have sworn he said something about the Boston Celtics winning a championship. It seemed like he was using that as a euphemism, like he was comparing that to something, okay? And then he said, everybody's running away from us. And then they were playing that song in the background, It's Gonna Be a Lovely Day. Now, one thing I noticed is whenever Diddy is leaving her these audio messages, he's always either playing something that's kind of motivational or saying something that's motivational. Like I told you guys yesterday, like he's Les Brown. He's always like trying to say something encouraging. And I think that sometimes when he's saying these things, that he wasn't only trying to encourage the witness, I think he was also trying to encourage himself. Okay, I think he was trying to boost himself up because at one point she testified that both of them were going through a depression. And that's when he had the conversation, as I was telling you on yesterday, when he was like, you know, if one of us is in a dark place, we got to pull the other person up. We got to have each other's backs. We got to show support. We got to keep the other person in the light because both of them were dealing with some sort of depression at the time. She was going through depression because of her so-called trauma from dealing with Diddy and all his other women, her heart constantly being broken, her feeling used and abused, and Diddy was dealing with depression likely from all the things that were being said about him all around the world after all this stuff started getting out and started to spiral out of control. Thank you for the super chat donation, beloved. I appreciate you. Peace, love, and blessings. Now, with that all being said, here's the thing that makes me think that she's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Because after a certain time had passed, it was June the 19th, 3:32 a.m. Now, that's when Teeny asked her, how much time had passed by now? And how much of the champagne had you all been drinking? Okay, you two, how much had you two been drinking of the champagne? And so the witness says, we both had about 2 glasses. Okay, she said we both had about 2 glasses. And she says, and that's when you started thinking about the woman that he took on the trip. Because mind you, when Diddy went on this trip, he was supposed to have just taken his family. And the kids posted about it on social media. And she just had it in her mind, even though she didn't see a woman on the trip, but she had it in her mind that there was some woman that lived in Miami that she felt Diddy was messing with. And it bothered her so bad that this woman lived close to him when he's down there at 1- and 2-star Island. That basically, she felt uncomfortable when she's all the way in California. He's so far from him. She's thinking that every time he's down there in Florida, he's with this woman. So when they went on this family trip, something made her think that the woman went on the trip as well and that Diddy just didn't tell her about it. Now, mind you, the woman wasn't posted in the pictures, okay, from what she said. But she just had a feeling about it. So anyway, Tina goes on to say that, hold on. She says, you started thinking about that woman that lived in Miami and how she was closer to him. And she says, and after that video, you started saying mean and hurtful things, right? And Jane says, right. She says, you hit his head on the marble counter. And she says, I think I did. Yeah, I did. And she says, yes. And then so Tina says, had you ever done this before? She says, no. Tina says, you've had verbal arguments, right? And she says, right. She says, afterwards, after you hit him, or after you hit his head on the counter, the marble counter, after you did that, then you took a candle. Now, I find this interesting because Tina's going in on her about this. But all I'm thinking about is how Diddy beat the hell out of Cassie in the hotel and then afterwards threw a vase at her. Remember that part? But let me continue. Because I'm just saying it all sounds the same, okay? It's given the abuser's being abused, so I'm not feeling sorry. So she says, and then afterwards, you took a candle and threw it at him. And Jane Doe says, yes. And then Tina says, you did this because of an assumption, right? Jane Doe said, I had a lot of resentment. Tina said, yeah, we talked about your resentment yesterday. Yeah, we talked about it. And you seem to feel that resentment and regrets are similar. And then she says, so you were agitated, right? And she says, yes. She says, you called him a PDF file and a monster. And then you felt that was okay. She said you did it repetitively. And then he called you crazy. And you locked yourself in the bedroom. Do you remember saying, do you remember him saying, I'm just not going to talk to you? Because he was trying to keep his composure. He was trying to stay calm. Okay, he was trying to stay calm, it seems, because he's like, I'm just not going to talk to you. But it seems like she kept constantly trying to provoke him. And here's the thing. She knew at this point that he had a propensity towards violence because she already saw Cassie getting beat up on that tape. Now, somebody in my chat yesterday, I can't remember who it was, but somebody in the chat said that it seemed to them that she was trying to get him to put bruises on her so she could have receipts. I don't know. Maybe that's what it was because she darn sure seemed like she was provoking. But anyway, so she says this was about a month after that video had come out, right? And then she says yes. So she said, now, she said Diddy kicked in the door, remember? So when she said he kicked in the door, I don't know what everybody else was thinking, but I was thinking that when she said she locked the door, that it was a nice lock on the door. You know, in those big fancy houses and mansions or whatever. But T.D. Garrigo said it was just a button lock. You know, one of those locks where you twist the knob, you just push the button in, and then you twist the knob and unlock it. So that's what kind of lock she claims it was. She said, so the door was had a button lock, right? And she says, yes. Excuse me, I feel like something's in my throat. So she says, at that point, you told him to leave. You said you hated him. Now, what was he saying while all this was going on? She says, he said I was crazy. She says, then you go into the closet and you lock the door with the button lock. Then you take off your dress and you put on another dress. Now, you've been going to the gym, you work out, you're very physically conscious about working out and things like that, right? She says, yes. She said, so you put on a dress, but not active wear. Because she's like putting on something to where she can run. Where she can get away from him, apparently, because now she's pissed him off. So Tina's like, you didn't put on active wear. You put on a dress and you kept on your heels. So then what happens is Diddy kicked in the closet door. So she says, are you yelling at this point? And she says, yes. She says, then he kicks me on the back of my leg. And then they show some pictures. And then she said, there's no Looks like this, hold on. Oh, she says, any sense of how long it lasted? She says, you took off your heels, and where was Mr. Combs? What was Mr. Combs doing? What was he saying? She said he was yelling. And she's like, and how long did you wait? She says approximately about 2.5 hours. This is after she fled or whatever. Thank you for the super chat donation, beloved. I appreciate you. Peace, love, and blessings. So she says she took off, and she says, how long did you wait? Because remember, she hid from him. She said about 2.5 hours. She said Diddy was outside. And then she starts cursing him out. Now, after you yelled at him, you remember, you remember talking to the government? And you said it was a solid punch? That's what she said. That's what she said. I knew she said it was a good punch or something along those lines, but she said she gave him a solid punch. Woo, she probably put all her weight into it. Pay attention. She said she gave him a good old solid punch, honey. I wonder where she punched him at. I wonder where she punched him at. Yeah, so she punched him. She said it was a good solid punch too. Okay? So then you went on yelling. Do you remember? And she says yes. So let me tell y'all why I think that she's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. This is just my opinion. Take it with a grain of salt at the end of the day. Hey, beloved. Hey, how y'all doing? This is what I'm saying. Because for one, now she invited him over there, knowing that he went on this trip with his family and kids. The kids posted pictures. There was nobody in the pictures but them, Diddy, and the rest of the family or whatever that went. There was no other women in the picture, from what she said. But for some reason, she put it in her mind that there was some woman on that trip. Now, we already know that she's testified that Diddy was always having other women, and he was allowing these women to post pictures and video footage on social media. He was not one to hide it 9 times out of 10. He would just lie to her if she'd ask, and then later she'd see the truth, and he didn't give a damn, and he'd say, hey, wait a minute. I don't have to explain myself to you. I'm the diddler. Okay, I do what I want. If you don't like it, you know where you can go. That's basically was his attitude. So the fact that she sat there and concocted this whole scenario in her own mind, and then further went through the trouble, her and John, of having champagne flutes, of having shot glasses, and in fact, lights, red ones, the ones that he loves, and candles, and a full course meal prepared by a chef, likely. Went through all this trouble to set the tone, to have this romantic rendezvous, because she said she missed him and she just needed to talk to him, and she wanted to cuddle, because that's what she loved, cuddling with the diddler. But then, when he gets there and he's enjoying his food and having a good time, she comes out of nowhere and says, no, I'm not making excuses for the diddler. I'm just saying I think she's equally as crazy as he is. That's all I'm saying. So then she says to him, oh, you're a PDF file. And Teenie asked her, she said, now you knew the person was of age, right? And she said, yes. But she said that he was a PDF file because she said, you're dating people who are not even old enough to buy their own drinks. And she's basically talking about Gina. And so then she starts calling him PDF files and monsters and going off and trying to fight and all that, pushing his head into the marble countertops and all this crazy stuff. At the end of the day, you just 5 seconds ago wanted to cook a meal, you wanted to have a romantic dinner, and you wanted lights, cameras, and action. Now, out of nowhere, you just snap? Do y'all hear how this is sounding? Doesn't she sound just as crazy as him? Doesn't this sound or remind you of the way he just snapped on Cassie in that video that we all saw and can't forget? And how after he beat the crap out of Cassie, dragged her down that hallway back to that room, and dared her to try to leave. He sat down on a chair and picked up a vase and threw it at her. Well, that's what this sounds like. She did almost the same thing. She invited that man over, wooed him over, love bombed him, had a good old time for a minute, and then went in, okay? Y'all don't think this is crazy? This sounds like a match made in hell is all I'm saying. What do y'all think? Okay, this is absolutely nefarious, you guys. So anyway, with that all being said, that's when the judge decides to send us to lunch. And then before, like I said, before we got out of there, or before I got out of there, because some people left, I was still sitting there trying to be nosy so I can bring y'all all the tea. Okay, that Crazy Rich Aaron said it is crazy, Queen. Okay, right. Sounds like he met his match. Exactly, that's what I'm saying. So anyway, honey, I mean, both of them are off the rocker, is all I'm saying. Okay, and here's the thing. I kind of knew she was kind of crazy because she said she told him at one point, she said she told him like days ago when she was testifying sometime last week, she said she told him, I ain't Cassie and Gina. She said, you got me effed up. I ain't neither one of your hoes. You got me upped up. That's what she basically was saying last week. Okay? So I knew then, when somebody tell you I ain't so-and-so, you got me effed up. That's the same thing I told that man when he snatched my phone yesterday and grabbed me and knocked my phone out of my hand. I said, you got me effed up. You got the wrong one. So when somebody starts saying that, I know they got the smoke. And it might be a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, because I know I am. So I'm just saying it takes one to know one, and I think I know it's crazy when I see it. Okay? I want y'all to pay attention. She's just as bad, and she didn't get. Okay. So anyway, honey, I'm gonna go back in here because I'm dying to find out what they were talking about. I'm dying to find out why the judge keeps having these sidebars and calling people in chambers and done what Diddy to come in there and be privy to the conversation. It's all about him. Okay? I got to find out what's going on. But, yeah. Absolutely, I think her and Diddy are two peas in a pod. A nefarious pod at that. That's all I'm saying. Okay? So, she said we can get crazy. Yeah, that's what she said, beloved. That's about the size of it. All right? Oh, you want to see crazy? I'll show you crazy. Let's get to it. Let's get into it. That was her attitude, all right? Come on, let's go toe to toe. I mean, when she sat up there and knocked that man's head into a marble countertop, now you know that's crazy as hell, okay? I'm like, say what now? Why'd you get so mad about it? I am done, okay? I am absolutely done. So anyway, with that all being said, honey, I got to go in here before I pass out, okay? I mean, it's all fun and games until you fall the hell out here in this heat. And so anyway, listen, I'll be back when court is over. I don't know if we're getting out at 3 or 5 today. Lord, please let it be 3. It's too damn hot out here for this. And I am so tired. Y'all, I keep telling y'all I got to get up at 4 o'clock. Whew. And then I still barely make it in the damn life, okay? I still barely make it. Honey, I'm going to have to start getting up at 3 o'clock. Honey, this is all ridiculous. Okay, I hope y'all know this is work. Let me tell y'all something. True story. True story. When I left her yesterday, and I left her late, because I sat up here and did a live with you guys for almost an hour. Then I posted on my TikTok. Follow me on my new TikTok, by the way. I posted on my TikTok, and then I posted some stuff on Twitter and Instagram, right? And then I headed home, right? By the time I got home, let me tell y'all, I said, okay, I'm gonna lay down for just a little second. I'm gonna lay down, y'all, and rest my weary little old ass for just about 10 to 15 minutes, and then I'm gonna set up to do another live so we can really get into it, crack all the jokes or whatever. But honey, when I tell y'all I laid down and closed my eyes for what I thought was 15 minutes, and when I opened them, it was 1:25 a.m. And I'm like, damn, I slept the whole evening away? And I gotta be right back up at 4 to do it all over again? Y'all don't think this is a full-time job? Y'all better ask somebody. Okay, ask Tisa, Tails, and Armand. They've been here since the beginning. And shout out to them, because this is no joke. Okay, listen, and let me tell you all something. Listen. All of these YouTubers that are out here beefing, they need to stop. It's not that serious. We are all having fun out here together. Those of us, we've all met up, and now we see. Thank you, beloved, for your contribution to the channel. I appreciate you. Peace, love, and blessings. Listen, we have all just met and having a good time. Everybody's like followed each other now, and we're just all having a good time. And here's the thing. That's important because, you know, some people build their platforms on going in on other creators. And I told you all weeks ago, I'm going to stop being so darn petty and going in on people. You know what I'm saying? But here's the thing. Now, I'm going to still go in on the trolls. Let's just keep it a buck. Okay? I'm going to tone it down, but I ain't crazy. I'm still going to go in on the trolls. But here's the thing. There were 2 YouTubers who lost their lives in Vegas a few days ago. Okay, I don't know if you all heard about it, but they were beefing online, and this guy, he lived in Vegas. The other two were visiting Vegas, the guy and his wife, and this guy finds them on the strip and takes their lives, all over YouTube beef. So you have to ask yourself, is it really worth it? It isn't. At the end of the day, it's enough room for everybody, and we all can just work together. Or if you want to work by yourself, you can do that too. We just don't need to have all this unnecessary beef, honey. And I'm not here for it, okay? I'm not here for it. All right, so anyway, listen, I'm out of here. I love y'all to life. I'm so glad y'all are my loyal royals. Okay, I be bragging about y'all all the time. And with that all being said, listen. Ooh, y'all see how the queen's out here sweating, child? I'm about to pass out. Here go another queen, child. Come over and tell them your channel. It's the other queen right here, honey.
Queen Sheba Darling. Y'all can find me on YouTube, Instagram, and or TikTok. Why are you in the heat? Working
Child,
this hard?
honey, I couldn't get nowhere else,
Golly.
okay? That's what I'm saying, honey,
Here,
for the
girl.
loyal royals.
Hold on.
I'm about to pass out. I'm about to get out of here in a second. Y'all see?
Dab.
Thank you, thank you. Okay, y'all see I'm out here, honey. I'm out here about to have a whole heat stroke for y'all royals. Okay, this is dedication. I want y'all to pay attention. All right? For everybody who's YouTuber is out here in these streets, boots on the ground, y'all need to show them love, honey. And I appreciate you guys, because when I tell you it's hot as fish grease, please pay attention. I'm not even exaggerating. Okay, so listen, I'm getting out of here. I love y'all to life. I will see you all when we get out of court today. Each one teach one. That's how we grow and thrive. Do something productive, constructive, but never destructive. And always remember, beloveds, to keep the Most High first in your lives.